And is this good news then for Ukraine? As we know, Ukraine's had a bit of a roller coaster in terms of its relationship with Donald Trump and the willingness of the Trump administration to provide support to that country.
Yeah, Ash, well, typically in these situations, you'd say, wait until a country does something rather than says something. Unfortunately, with the Trump administration at the moment, you have to wait quite a while because it can do alternative things, 180-degree different things. So, the White House had held up air defense missiles for Ukraine for a while. It then reversed that. It said that it's been quietly sort of winding back some of the sanctions on Russia. Now Trump says he's considering, this very heavy sanctions deal. So whether or not it's good for Ukraine, it might be good for them in the short term. But the short term with this particular administration can be measured in hours rather than days or weeks.
We've been seeing reports this week about North Korea's increasing military involvement in the Russia-Ukraine war. What do we know so far about exactly the sort of commitment that North Korea is giving Russia?
Yeah, well, the number that's been bandied around is 30,000 troops, and that's really a considerable number, especially given the first tranche of North Koreans that went to Russia were estimated about 8 to 10,000. So this is three times as many. Um, and that would, you'd think, probably give Russia some significant extra combat capability, basically freeing up 30,000 of its own troops, or meaning that it didn't have to draft 30,000 more from Russia itself. So this is quite a considerable escalation, and like another demonstration that we often say Russia doesn't have allies, but it does in fact have allies, and some of those allies, regrettably, are in our region.
I wanted to ask you about another story that was making headlines a little earlier this week. It involved a minister from Putin's government. He was dumped from his job only to be found dead with a gunshot wound later that same day. Should we be sceptical, do you think, of this being described as a suicide?
Well, look, this is Roman Starowitz, who was the Russian transport minister, who it seems has been potentially involved in a whole variety of different dealings in the construction industry, particularly in Kursk in Russia, where he used to be the governor. And there have been stories for a while that he might have been entrapped in a sort of corruption scandal, and that this was why he was let go. The fact that he was found dead, with a gunshot wound just hours after being dismissed, is another one of those things that gives you a little bit of pause. It comes just days after the deputy head of Russia's Transneft company, which does oil and gas, or oil and fuel pipelines, fell out of a window. And that marks, I think it's up to about 15 Russian senior executives or political figures who have died in somewhat questionable circumstances since the war in Ukraine began.
Goodness, a dangerous orbit to be in by the sounds of it. Matt Sussex, really appreciate your analysis. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Ash.